hero stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing somewhere beyond the sea. She's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight
the dark, cold, and mysterious deep sea is the last unexplored frontier in the land of Don. Along the road from the surface, the sun fades and the temperature drops. Then there is total darkness, called the Abysmal Sea, where currents and high pressure were strong enough to tear up the sophisticated material Eruditio had created. This place is a forbidden zone of life, where no human has ever set foot. Only the remnants of a civilization that were abandoned and eliminated were sunk and piled up. Even so, it's not just death here. Many untrustworthy and indescribable creatures, including Atlas, have struggled and multiplied for centuries in this dangerous area. They are one of the oldest living things in the land of Don, devouring elemental creatures for power, which makes them imprisoned in this deepest place by the ancient people. Strong injections block light, heat, and paths above them. To adapt to high-pressure environments, they remove excessive shells and structures and develop various forms of liquid. In endless darkness, there are no fights and disputes, only the law of survival, existence, change, and circulation. However, after a few centuries, things gradually change. Change does not originate from under the sea, but comes from above. The succession of civilizations' ongoing wars affected not only land, but also the oceans. Everything began to deteriorate. Creatures in the Abysmal Sea that are very bad can no longer adapt to even worse situations. Wither and death comes without warning. The biggest of them is the first to compete. These giant, fibrous creatures withered their tentacles and bodies to rush up, but not only to be torn apart because of the injunction. Others cannot understand their destiny, but they know they need a change that is the instinct of all living things. Therefore, they begin to try to break the orders. The only prisoner who finally got rid of the Abysmal Sea was Atlas. As the most experienced individual, he feels change faster than his kind when the Abysmal Sea is involved. He was the first to prepare for an escape. Torn flesh warns other creatures that their bodies are vulnerable to extraordinary strength. To break an order, he must regain a rigid shell. Atlas continues to roam and search in depth, until one day, in the pile of remains of civilization, he found his destined shell, Mecha Sentry, a set of giant ancient machine armor. These big things were produced as war machines by the Iceland Golem, who had ruled the Northern Vale after the fall of the ancient golems. They were abandoned by later civilizations, dumped into the sea, and completely forgotten by the world. Atlas slowly approached the Mecha Center, finding it rotting on the ocean floor like a piece of iron that was rigid due to the loss of the control core. He then entered the center of the machine, stretching out its tentacles, injecting it into each joint, and began to take control. Along with a roar, Mecha Entry, who slept for thousands of years, turned on his eyes again. The forgotten body and the soul left behind become perfectly combined and joined together. The giant Mecha Sentry broke through the injunction, rushed from the inside to the surface, then jumped into the sea. That was when the world would welcome Atlas' new player, Ironclad Kraken. Atlas feels strange and curious about this world. He visited anywhere that could be reached by the sea, which was driven by a desire to learn and strengthen. He frantically withdrew knowledge from creatures, races, and civilizations. Meanwhile, his control over Mecha Sentry became increasingly proficient. It was as if the machine was originally made for him, but no matter how long it passes, Atlas is always haunted by thoughts. Its kind is still struggling in the Abysmal Sea, the largest prison and the farthest place in the world. Now Atlas not only has hard armor, but also a plan. He will break the commandment between the Abysmal Sea and the world, save his kind from an eternal prison. There is a secret treasure known only to the pirates who were hidden somewhere in the Sea of Northern Vale. It has the power to regenerate, strong enough to change the ecology of the whole ocean. Atlas wanted it from the first time he studied the story. drifter now finding his path, Atlas comes into the battlefield with his initiator and crowd control tactics. With control over his new armor and an infinite amount of sea and adventure to explore, Atlas decides to take a final adventure on land. And just not on any land, but the land of Don, hoping to learn more about this new place and people so when he does set back to his underwater adventure, he'll be ready for any danger that may come into his path. And with knowledge and now brawn, I would advise highly to stay on Atlas's good side, or else. Mobile Legends, bang, bang.
Well, beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, straight to her arms